Hi, welcome to my studio. My name is Kris. This channel is all about tips, tools, and tutorials for growing in watercolor. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to use and care for your porcelain watercolor palette. I get questions all the time like this. Should I cover the palette? Should I let the paint dry out in the palette? What about all this old paint here in the center in the mixing area? Should I clean it up or just leave it? What happens if some of the paint gets contaminated in these wells? What should I do? Lots of questions like these I hear from my viewers all the time. I'd like to answer them. Let's get started. If you've watched some of my other videos, you know I absolutely love my Stephen Quiller porcelain palette. I have another video on this channel that tells you all about why I love using a porcelain palette. I've gotten a lot of questions on my channel about how I use this palette and how to care for it, so I thought I would talk about it in this video. I haven't used the palette now for several days, so when I uncover it, you'll see that the paint here is all dried. All the paint in the wells is pretty much dried up, and for some people they think that that's a problem, that they shouldn't let the paint dry. First of all, it's really important that you understand there's no problem whatsoever with your paint drying out in your palette. It's going to dry out, there's no way to avoid that, and if it's a good professional quality paint, like the paint I use, Daniel Smith watercolor paint, all you have to do is remist it or mist it with water in order to get it to reactivate. Let me show you. I use a small mister bottle like this. I just squirt a little bit of water into every single well on the palette. After using your spray bottle to mist all of the paint in the wells, you can just let it sit there for about a minute or so, and you'll come back and you'll find that almost all of the paint wells here have been reactivated, and you can paint with them just as if you had just squeezed them into the palette. There you go. You see how easily the paint reactivates in this porcelain palette. All I had to do was spray it with some water. Other people often ask me, should you clean this mixing area before you start painting again? There's actually two schools of thought about that. Some people do not clean this area very often, and as you can see, it's dry now. They'll just come in when they get ready to paint and maybe take a large brush. This isn't a very large one. Let me get a bigger one. They get a big brush and just come in here and mix all this paint and create for themselves a really nice neutral color. And you'll find that I use a lot of neutral colors in my paintings. I have a variety of them on my palette. And why waste this paint, right? It's pretty expensive paint. So maybe you can use this kind of, I don't know, grayish green color somewhere in your painting, or maybe you can do a quick value study using this. And so some people, they don't clean this area necessarily, they just use the paint that's on there and they mix it in with the other paints on their palette to create the colors they want, and they just keep painting. Again, that's one school of thought. However, you may find that you want to keep some areas of your painting very cool in color and others warm. And so it is necessary sometimes to keep your cools and warms separate from each other. And so if I were painting a big area like the sky and it was cool, I might paint that first. And then after I get done doing that area of the painting, I might come back then and spray this mixing area, take myself a little piece of paper towel and just clean this area off like this and get it all ready, maybe to come in with some warm colors. And I wouldn't want to get those warm colors contaminated by the blue that I just had on the palette, so I want to clean it, that kind of thing. So again, because if I had blue on there, I'd been doing the sky and I brought in a warm color like a yellow, well, I'm going to get green, and that might not be the color I want. So there are times when you do need to clean this mixing area, and it's really easy to do. It's, again, another reason why I love this porcelain palette, because all you need to clean it is some water and a paper towel, and it'll clean up just like new, just like you see here. It's perfect. Another question I often get about my palette is, what do you do about contamination when you get one color inside another well, like you see here? Got a little bit of yellow paint inside this cobalt blue well. Well, again, it kind of depends on your personality. Some people can't stand that and they keep their wells really super pure and clean. However, I don't worry about it too much because really that little extra paint, you see there's a little bit of a violet color here inside this, I think that's quinacridone rose well. It's not that big a deal. Normally those extra little colors are just kind of on the surface, and if I took a brush in here and got it wet and just kind of picked up those extra colors, you'd see I could really clean the well out pretty easily. So you can see pretty quickly there, I was able to just take a brush and get that extra yellowish color out of there, and this cobalt blue now is pretty much pure blue again. It's not that big a deal. You don't need to worry about it that much. Okay, and the last thing you should know about using one of these porcelain palettes is when you're done painting and you're ready to put the palette away, I would come back and just lightly mist all of the paint again. I know I'm going to be going away for at least a day, maybe 2 days before I paint again, and this will just kind of keep the paints from drying out too much. And then take the cover that comes with this Stephen Quiller palette and just place it over that. It's not a real tight-fitting cover. It's really designed just to fit loosely over the top, but it keeps dust from getting in there, and it does keep it from drying out a little bit. And again, we aren't worried about it drying out completely because all you have to do when you get ready to paint again is just take off the cover and mist it. Okay, let's review how to use this porcelain palette. First of all, don't worry about your paint drying out. All you have to do is mist it with a mister like this to get it to reactivate. Secondly, I would keep it covered in between use to keep out dust and to keep the moisture in a little bit. Number 3, I wouldn't worry too much about contamination in the wells. You can try to keep them clean, but if they do get a little other paint in them, you can remove that paint really easily. And 4th, just whether or not to clean out this area, it's really up to you. The mixing area, you can allow paint to just accumulate in there and then mix it to create a nice neutral, or every time you mix a different temperature of color, you can just clean it with some water and paper towel, and it'll be as clean and as good as new. So there you go. That's how you use and care for a porcelain palette like this Stephen Quiller porcelain palette. I will have links to this product and other ones like it that are more affordable in the video description below, so if you're interested, check those out. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, consider subscribing. I put out videos like this about once a week. Thanks and have a great day.